Welcome to the Political Insider, where we are going to give you your weekly dose of what's going on inside South African politics with a friend of our show, and that is Mr. Maseko. Welcome.
Hi, Mike. How are you doing?
It's good. It's good to see you. We've had a couple of weeks of commissions,
Yes.
so which we've covered to death, and perhaps it's time for us to talk about stuff. I mean, the commission will find its way into what we're talking about, but I got you here because nobody is better placed. You've been in local government to see the story of, we covered it where Helen Zille put her hand up to be the mayoral candidate in Johannesburg. That set the cat amongst the pigeons. We're now seeing ActionSA working. It looks like Herman Mashaba is going to stand, and so on and so forth. But what is really the news that has broken has been that, for those that don't know, in the Johannesburg Metro, which is run by a coalition that's headed by the ANC, EFF and Patriotic Alliance, but they need and have the support of a lot of small entrepreneurial parties. These are parties that exist for the benefit of one person only, that have kept the ANC, EFF, Patriotic Alliance in power, and suddenly those parties seem to have broken ranks. It seems like they're not getting their monthly stipend for their support of the ANC, and it's a question that needs answering. So, Kushle, we know that the next elections are local government elections. Firstly, what's your take on the Johannesburg coalition? Do you think it's going to last?
I doubt, Mike. I doubt. I think almost all coalitions, with the exception of Ekhuruleni, won't last, you know. You look at Tshwane, you look at Johannesburg, but particularly around the city of Johannesburg, last week we had the drama of the Patriotic Alliance and Gayton McKenzie threatening all positions in the party.
Including his own.
Including his own. For one position in the city of Johannesburg. Just for one, you know. You can't make it up. But nonetheless, we saw those threats. And now, recently, today, we've got what seems to be the speaker of the city of Johannesburg withdrawing. It seems like a little subtle withdrawal that she has done by apparently leaving the minority WhatsApp group.
Yeah, and we are not making this up. These minority parties literally had a minority WhatsApp group, and many of them physically left the minority WhatsApp group. And just before we start playing favorites and just call out names of people in those minority in that minority WhatsApp group, it includes delegate from the UIM, the United Independent Movement, the party of the late Neil de Beer, that has been propping up the ANC in Johannesburg. So that's a very interesting story. But so it looks like those small parties, they were not happy because they didn't get the positions that they were hoping to get.
Yes. Well, Mike, let's be real. Let's just do a bit of maths, and quick maths, you know, as someone who has seen the story before. So, according to the local government structure, a mayor can only have 10 executives which join the Maseko, which are the MMCs. Cool, done. And then when it comes to your Section 79 chairperson committees, they can go up to about 19, 20, roughly, and then you've got your Section 80. But they generally put together don't cross 20, meaning that all in all, there are about 30 to 35, if you include the speakers and the chief whips, extra positions that have got extra financial gain from just a standard councillor salary. Now, understand this, Mike. There are many one-seat parties which are known as minority parties, right? So you've got the PA with about 10 seats. You've got the EFF sitting at about 20 or 29, if I'm not mistaken, 29 seats. And ActionSA was there before they left, including the ANC. With their chunk, right? And then you've got many of these one-seat parties, the Al Jamahs of this world. And mind you, a lot of anger comes from Al Jamah as well. There is simply not enough positions to cover everyone in this GLU. Otherwise, that would mean the ANC would only walk away with 4 positions. And then, you know, everyone else must just get one. You know, so there's simply not enough positions. You've got Kabelo Kwamanda and the Tapelo Ahmed, yes, the two Johannesburg's worst mayors ever. You've got those two clowns. They are chairpersons, which mean They are the watchdogs of departments. They watch corruption. Imagine Kabelo Commander watching corruption. You know, the crook is watching corruption, but nonetheless, they watch over corruption, and they are not happy with the chairperson posts. They are saying, no, we should at least be MMCs. And that has caused a bit of a grift, because the only person who has sort of benefited above everyone else in this minority whatever coalition or group is Margaret Arnolds, who happens to be the Speaker of the Johannesburg legislature.
Yeah, and she's from the AIC, and she's had a few plum positions because she's been MMC for finance and the Speaker, so she gets her gig, and she seems to be really angry that she lost her gig. So it's a fascinating one, which I can't see how it resolves itself, because there was before a coalition headed by the Democratic Alliance, which ActionSA was part of. And remember, ActionSA has got a big slug of the vote because they did very well in 2021. They got 44 seats in there. You got ActionSA, DA, Freedom Front Plus, but they're still short. And they had all those entrepreneurial parties in the first coalition. And then they all got made a better offer to go to the ANC coalition. I can't see how this resolves itself.
So, Mike, the trick is, I guess this is where we'd say Johannesburg goes into what we call minority governance, right? Where purely because these guys, it's going to be a thing of numbers, thing of, okay, I've got 102, you've got 106. 106 will lead even though it's not the majority, right? So that's what's perhaps going to happen. But here's the big trick, is majority of these minority parties, and mind you, the minority parties are actually sort of a disease. They are cancer to our councils and to our parliament as well. They are the ones that pushed through the VAT. If you remember the first budget, it was them, right? So majority of these guys are in it for the financial gain. Because the interesting thing about minority parties is they don't have a constituency that will be there to punish them when they do the wrong things. Tapelo Ahmed and Kabelo Kwamanda can be crooks for all they like if they wanted to, which one is, but they could be. And trust me, Al Jamal will still come back with the same votes. Those 2,000, 3,000 supporters don't really care about what their public representatives do, and minority parties know this. Hence, they don't have any sense of care in the world for any of the actions that they do. We know that in the city of eThekwini, minority parties total about 19 there. There are about 19 one-seat parties. Ridiculous. And these parties each, and allegedly, and I'm going to highlight allegedly, got about 2 million rand each in the beginning of their term to go and vote for the ANC, because there was the real risk that that city could go into the hands of the DA, as well as tenderpreneurs who were ready to dish out the money in order to make sure that tenders keep on coming. So let's link that back to Joburg. The interesting part is, I would surely be close to 100% sure, is DA and to a certain extent even ActionSA did not have any money to offer these minority parties. You know, there was absolutely no dollar that they had except for their salaries. There was nothing to say, if you stick with us, we'll make sure that you get 1, 2, 3. No. But where they knew that they were going to get some deal was at Luthuli House.
Yeah, so now I think the minority government is the way we go. We've got to run in probably a year from now, local government elections. But this is really going to throw the cat amongst the pigeons, because the question that I'd like to put to you, as somebody who's been involved in local government, would you right now, if somebody pitched up at your door, and let's say you're a part of ActionSA or the Democratic Alliance, would you want to take over Johannesburg now?
No. That's a simple answer. It is no. I don't think it's wise to take over any metro in South Africa. And I can go as far as local municipalities. It isn't wise. Because this is a trick. It's a tactic from the ANC to say, look, we don't mind. You know, you can take the last 6 or 8 months before the next LGEs. People will remember that you were part of the drama. You know, that this guy was there, and we'll use it as an excuse. Trust me, as soon as the ANC withdraws, and let's imagine that they give it to Belinda Kaizenchonku in the city of Johannesburg, right? And amazing person. But let's say they give it to her, and she wouldn't realistically be even able to resolve 10% of the problems within now and next year. Watch how they will bash her name. Watch how they will bash the DA. So it's something that it's a trap that no party wants to fall into, including, you could say, the city of Tshwane with Nasipi. I do foresee even that coalition falling apart, and falling apart because of the ANC. Because, you know, there's this thing of coverage that, will we allow ourselves to let someone take the limelight, you know? That is there. So some coalitions will deliberately fall apart.
What I find quite astounding through this all is that we're now looking at the outcome of many years of putting politics above service delivery. We've only spoken about graft and paying small parties to vote with you and this, that and the other, and positions. Nowhere in our discussion are we talking about I can deliver better than you or you can deliver better than me. That doesn't even enter into the discussion. But so that's created the problems that we've got where our metros are so dysfunctional. So, you know, the question that I want to know is that one of the things that's been mentioned now that South Africa is into coalitions is whether we are heading towards a change in policy around thresholds. Now, for those that don't understand, thresholds is a debate that comes up every now and again. In South Africa before 2019, it wasn't really an issue. It was to a small degree in Johannesburg after the 2016 elections in the Gauteng metros. And that is to say, if you've got less than X% of the vote, your vote doesn't count, which then eliminates all those one-seat parties. And it becomes only the accountable parties that get to set up coalitions, and they can get punished at the polls because, as you mentioned, those entrepreneurial parties, it's their families that are voting for them and their community that don't really care about delivery. Do you think this will influence the debate about thresholds, and do you think people get serious about it?
Yes, Mike, definitely. You know, going back to your point on service delivery over politics, you know, one looks at it as, you know, in South Africa, we've tend to run away from the key issues, you know. All of a sudden, it's all about making sure that something is in place to keep on benefiting us. But let's keep it to thresholds. The bottom line is, in metros, especially metros, like as big as Johannesburg, there are 270 councillors. But do you know, to get a fraction seat, which means it's actually one seat, but it's a rounded off seat, you need about 2,000 votes. That means you need about 2,000, and I'm sorry to say this, useful idiots.
Yeah, it's about 3 taxis.
Yeah, exactly. You know, 2,000 useful idiots that they don't really care about rates and taxes. That's not their concern. They are just like, okay, we'll give you that job. There you go. 2,000 useful idiots, they will give you that vote. And all of a sudden, you are in charge of deciding on rates and taxes. You are in charge of doing X, Y, Z. Let's be honest, Mike. I've had this conversation before with a good friend of mine who says to me, and I'll be quite honest, metro budgets are about 50 billion, roughly. Tshwane is close to 50. And
Johannesburg's 82 billion.
Yes, it's more, you know. It's close to, let's say, about 50 plus if we average it out, each municipality. Think about this in a very scary way, including these thresholds and these entrepreneurial parties. Majority of the guys that start entrepreneurial parties don't have any form of varsity qualification. Some have not even finished school, and we're putting them in charge of billions and billions of rands.
Yeah.
We're putting them in charge of, some of them were not even ratepayers. Some of them stayed in shacks. They lived with illegal connections, which is a real thing. And they're here now, they have to preside over ratepayers. Does this make sense? And that is because threshold doesn't exist, because any sort of community popular uncle can just go and start his own reform whatever party, let 1.5 thousand people vote for him, then boom, he's got a seat in council, he's got a cushy job, he's got a medical aid. There's no threshold. But if these thresholds come in, we say goodbye to those 19 one-seat parties in the city of eThekwini. We say goodbye, good riddance. Let's give it to parties with a real mandate, parties that have actually got economists in those parties. They actually know the law.
Yeah.
We're not just giving it to people that just arrived on the scene yesterday.
Yeah. And most importantly, they pay a price if there's bad governance.
Exactly.
I want to ask you another question just on this, and that is that we know we've got the government of national unity, and I know that quite soon after the last national election, when the GNU was formed, that there was this expectation that it would filter down to provincial and then local level. And of course that didn't happen because vested interests got in the way. But now that we've got such a disaster in the city of Johannesburg, we've got the G20 coming up, the ANC knows how much it's going to hurt them, etc. Do you think there's a chance that they now call on their GNU partner, i.e. the DA, to say, let's get united on this now and let's do this deal that we should have done 18 months ago? I mean, or does that just get laughed out?
I think it's the more on the second part, just gets laughed out, And that is because we've got Panyaza Lesufi. Let's be honest. There was supposed to be a GPU that had the DA. But Panyaza didn't see it fit. He said, there's no ways I'm going to work with those white people. That's the Panyaza does. Everyone is white in the DA, including Solly Malatsi. But nonetheless, I don't see it succeeding, especially in the city of Johannesburg. And two things. I don't think the DA would agree to it. It would be something that I don't see Panyaza Lesufi agreeing to this. For the ANC, I'm telling you, this is perhaps what the ANC dreams about every day. Could they just work with the EFF and the PA? And the other useful idiots somehow don't.
Okay, so while we talk about small parties, we saw parties that admittedly, 2 of the 3 of them haven't stood in local government elections yet, and that's Rise Mzansi, Build One South Africa, and the Good Party, form a voting bloc, a vehicle called Unite for Change, UFC. God, it's hard to cover South African politics sometimes. You are going to see on the ballot in the metros a entity called UFC, a political party, but it's made up of other political parties, which includes Good Party, where their leader, Patricia de Lille, has protected corruption in her Ministry of Tourism. But putting that aside, you've got these 3 groups that have come together. Do you see them moving the needle at all?
No, Mike. Let me tell you what's happening here, Mike. This is like having Percy Montgomery today. No, I'm not talking about in his prime. I'm saying that, look, we've got someone who was, the bottom line is they've all passed their prime.
Okay.
Including Musi Maimane, including Patricia de Lille. All of these guys have passed their prime. Yes, they had a name in the yesteryears. Now they've got nothing. Let me tell you what's going to happen. The next election, it will just be a big 1%. So this is the big test for them. And I'll tell you why they're rolling it out now and not in 2029. Someone asked me this question yesterday. The idea is, guys, let's roll it out 2026. So if indeed it does fail, let us not come together again in 2029 so that we can all at least get our 1 seats separately.
Yeah.
And we can still keep our jobs.
Yeah, because if they in its current format contest a national election and get 2 seats, who do they leave out?
Exactly. And Patricia de Lille's pension relies on that position.
Okay, I'm going to just close off with the news that the ANC's one big problem of paying for campaign material that was used in 2019 still hasn't gone away, and in actual fact, the organization of the ANC has been liquidated, or there's somebody trying to liquidate them. And the best of the lot, it's a company called Ezulwini, and the best of the lot is that the owner of the company says he remains a committed member of the ANC and a devoted member and all that. Anyway, he's now put them under that. He got the sheriff to go to Lutuli House and take all of their stuff. Do you think they'll sort that out, and or do you think that this might be a way that the party ends? It's just being stopped by a judge.
Look, Mike, you know the old saying that the spiteful ones are the ones that last the longest,
Yeah.
Now let's take it to the ANC. You will think that this could be the final nail in the coffin. No, it isn't. There is still Russia, there's still Iran, there's still ICC, there's so many people they could knock on. You know, they are the Oliver Twists of the world. You can knock on many doors, and one will open. I assure you, one will open. We saw that Russian cargo plane that we don't know what it had landed here. Who knows? Maybe this issue will be done and over in the next few days. Maybe we'll have some Persian oil coming through to South Africa. No one knows.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, South African politics, we have to get experts on here just to keep us grounded. Johannesburg is going to be the battleground for the local government election, and it's going to lay the road ahead for South African politics in the future. Kutle, where can people find you on social media? They can watch your great podcast.
Yes, it's called The Insider Report. Used to be 10 Minutes with Kutle. You can still find it as 10 Minutes with Kutle, but you can find me on all my social media handles as Kutle the Boss Man.
Kutle the Boss Man, laying it out for us. Thank you so much for joining us here on The Political Insider. Please subscribe to the channel, ring the bell. We'll see you again